Gravity and light. These two forces quietly run the universe in the background. We've imagined worlds without gravity, but what if one day the light simply disappeared? Picture this. It's 8 a.m. Your alarm goes off, but your room is as dark as midnight. No blue glow of the sky slipping through your curtains. Just black. You reach for your phone. The internet still works, but every news broadcast sounds the same. Confusion and fear. No sunrise in London. No dawn in New York. Tokyo never saw first light. Sydney is still in complete darkness. At first, scientists scramble for explanations. Maybe it is an extreme solar eclipse, a massive volcanic eruption, or a catastrophic failure of our satellites. But space telescopes confirm a horrifying fact. The sun's light has stopped reaching Earth. In reality, a star does not just switch off like a lamp. But in this thought experiment, imagine the effect is instantaneous, as if someone pulled a cosmic plug. In the first hours, cities glow on stored electricity. Power plants still run. Streetlights hold back the dark. But as solar farms fall silent and satellites starve without sunlight, the first cracks appear in the fragile shell of our civilization. We are children of a star, suddenly abandoned in an endless, freezing void. Within just 24 hours, the damage is no longer emotional or symbolic. It becomes biological. Plants are the first to feel the loss. Without photons, photosynthesis stops the instant the light disappears. The process that turns sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen simply shuts down. They don't just stop producing oxygen. Like us, they continue to respire, consuming oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. The rainforests that once acted as the lungs of the earth begin to turn into vast, dark reservoirs of dead biomass. The balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide starts to shift. Animals that use the sun as a compass, migratory birds, bees, sea turtles, fish, lose their navigation systems overnight. They rely on the sun's position, polarized light, and even the stars. All of that is gone. But the most profound crisis happens inside the human brain. Our circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour clock, is anchored to light, specifically to blue wavelengths of sunlight that hit special cells in our eyes and signal the brain to reset its clock every day. Without sunrise and sunset, that clock starts to drift. Sleep becomes irregular, hormones fall out of sync, body temperature cycles wobble. Melatonin, cortisol, serotonin, all the chemicals that govern our mood and wakefulness start firing at the wrong times. Insomnia, depression, anxiety, and hallucinations spread like a psychological pandemic. We are no longer just surrounded by darkness. The darkness begins to rewire us from the inside. Now the physics of losing the sun begin to take over. Earth receives about 1,361 watts per square meter of solar energy at the top of the atmosphere. Without it, our planet becomes a warm object radiating into a cold universe. Within a week, average global temperatures plummet to around -20 degrees Celsius. The ground beneath our feet, which has stored warmth for billions of years, begins to bleed that heat into the emptiness of space. The oceans are our planet's giant thermal batteries, but even they cannot hold out forever. The surface of the Atlantic first becomes a thick slush. Waves move slowly, heavy, as ice crystals form. Within about a month, many of the world's oceans are capped with a layer of ice roughly a meter thick. Underneath that frozen lid, liquid water still survives for a time, insulated by the ice above and the heat from the earth below. But life near the surface, coral reefs, plankton blooms, coastal ecosystems, collapses in slow motion. Coastal megacities, New York, Lagos, Shanghai, Rio, stand frozen on the edges of silent, white plains where oceans used to roar. Harbors freeze, ships are locked in place, ports turn into vast graveyards of steel and ice. The last places on Earth where life carries on almost as if nothing happened are the deep-sea hydrothermal vents. These ecosystems are powered not by sunlight, but by geothermal energy, heat from the Earth's mantle and chemicals like hydrogen sulfide. Down there, bizarre creatures crowd around black smokers, thriving in complete darkness. For them, the sun was never part of the story. For nearly everything else on the surface, the Earth is becoming as hostile as the moons of the outer solar system. If humanity is to survive, it will survive on borrowed heat from the inside of our planet. Regions with strong geothermal activity, like Iceland, parts of New Zealand, Japan, and the Pacific Ring of Fire, become the most valuable real estate in human history. We would be forced to move underground, carving out enormous bunkers and habitats kilometers beneath the frozen crust. The deeper we go, the warmer it gets. The geothermal gradient adds about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius per kilometer. Entire cities would be rebuilt in caverns, living quarters, hospitals, schools, and control rooms bathed in artificial light. Above us, the world would be locked in ice. Below us, steel and concrete cocoons clinging to the last trickles of planetary heat. Agriculture would undergo a brutal transformation. Vertical farms stacked floor upon floor. LED lighting tuned to the exact wavelengths plants need for photosynthesis. Power from nuclear reactors and geothermal plants replacing the sun as our energy source. Every calorie of food we produce would be traced back not to sunlight, but to uranium, thorium, or the slow heat of radioactive decay in Earth's core. A single apple could represent hours of reactor time and careful resource allocation. It would be worth more than a luxury car once was. Every breath of oxygen would come from tightly controlled bioreactors, algae farms, or chemical systems like those used on spacecraft. Nothing would be wasted. Every molecule would be measured, scrubbed, and recirculated. And in these enclosed, pressurized underground fortresses, a new question would define our politics. Who gets access to the heat, the food, the air? Who is left outside in the absolute dark? Fast forward about a year. Without the sun, and after prolonged cooling, average temperatures on the surface plunge toward minus 200 degrees Celsius, approaching the conditions found on some of the colder moons in our solar system. At these temperatures, something extraordinary and terrifying happens to the atmosphere itself. The gases we breathe, nitrogen and oxygen, have boiling and freezing points. As the planet cools, they reach the point where they can no longer remain as gases.
Nitrogen begins to liquefy around -196 degrees Celsius. Oxygen around -183 degrees Celsius. It would start with a strange, invisible rain of liquid air condensing and falling from the sky. Then, as the cooling continues, this liquid would freeze into a fine, pale snow, crystals of solid nitrogen and oxygen settling on top of the ice-covered oceans and continents. Our atmosphere, which once extended hundreds of kilometers into space, would collapse into a thin, frozen shell lying on the ground. Without a gaseous atmosphere, Earth would no longer scatter sunlight, reflect radio waves, or shield the surface from cosmic radiation. Of course, without the sun, there is no sunlight to scatter, but the planet's character has changed fundamentally. From space, Earth would now appear as a dark, glassy marble, faintly reflecting the light of distant stars. No auroras, no blue oceans, no swirling white clouds. If a distant alien civilization were to scan this world for signs of life, they would find none. No radio transmissions, no artificial lights, no spectral fingerprints of a living, breathing biosphere. They would see a dead rock wrapped in ice, hiding 8 billion stories that ended in silence. We complain about heat waves, glare on our screens, and bright mornings that wake us too early. It's easy to forget that what we are really complaining about is the presence of cosmic luck. The sun is not just a bright disk in the sky. It is a 4.6 billion-year-old nuclear fusion reactor, perfectly balanced between collapse and explosion, flooding our planet with a constant stream of energy. Every leaf on every tree, every breath of oxygen you take, every grain of rice, every piece of bread you've ever eaten, all of it is stored sunlight. The chemistry of your brain, the signals that carry your thoughts and memories, runs on energy that began in the core of a star. Every war ever fought, every empire ever built, every poem, every heartbreak, every laugh with your friends at sunset, all of it rests on the quiet reliability of that star 93 million miles away. If you are watching this, it means the sun is still shining. So when this video ends, if you can, step outside. Feel the warmth on your face. Notice the shadows, the colors, the movement of the clouds. Look at how effortlessly light fills every corner of your world. Because in a universe full of cold, dark, and empty space, having a star like ours at just the right distance for just the right amount of time is an unbelievably rare gift. And we are living in the middle of that miracle. If you want to keep exploring the what-ifs of our universe, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments, what would you appreciate more, starting today, if the sun vanished in our imagination, even just for 12 minutes? Until the next sunrise, cherish the light.